Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cory Means Business. We are super excited today because we've got a couple of really good things going on here. This is episode 1 of season 3, which we've been preparing for a while. So super excited to bring you season 3. And we've got a really, really awesome guest today. His name is Manish Shah. And nice. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank
Audience,
you.
Really appreciate your presence here. That's just a machine, by the way, but, fake it till you make it's my motto. So he's got a couple of companies, couple of different vehicles within the same industry. He's a tea guy. You do tea, wholesale tea. You have a wholesale tea company by the name of Maya Tea Company.
Yep.
And you've got your transit tea. He opened up a actual brick and mortar tea shop. The coffee too? Is it coffee or just tea?
Just tea.
Just teas?
Just tea. But we sell to a lot of coffee shops, so we know the business of coffee.
Okay, yeah, because all coffee shops have to have tea, right?
That's right.
Got to have that alternative. And he's got a retail location there, which is doing really well. Just opened it up, but doing really, really phenomenally. Been in business a long time. Very smart guy. On the pre-interview show, we talked about a lot of stuff, and super, super impressive. So great to be on the show, or great to have you on the show.
Well, no, thank you for having me.
To be on the show as well.
No, it's fun.
Welcome.
Thank you. No, thank you for the opportunity. It's always nice to sit with a fellow entrepreneur and kind of share stories. We won't call them war stories, but the difficulties and the challenges and the triumphs therein. So, no, it was great. It's great to be on.
Awesome. And also, new for season 3, which we have not had, which I hope that you guys will find delightful. We actually now have a co-host I want to introduce. His name is Mucho. Means a lot for those that don't know.
Thank you.
And I'm sure he's Mucho in every way, and he's going to bring a lot to the show. So welcome, Mucho.
Hey, man, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here, man.
Awesome.
I'm so excited. We've been working on this for a few months now, and just waiting for that call to come on in here, and can't wait to learn stuff too, man.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to have co-host / student / guy that's got a long track record. Just a little background on Mucho. He's been in the radio business for a long time, almost in every aspect you possibly could be in, right?
Yeah.
Sales.
26 years in the radio business.
Wow.
Started off serving coffee and scrubbing bathrooms to being program and promotions management. So love the business, man.
On-air personality too, right?
On-air personality. Had a #1 show in Los Angeles for a couple of years, and got trained in New York City, where I grew up in the Bronx. So, live, breathe the radio business.
All right.
So I'm excited to see the business aspect of people bringing up their own business, the challenges and the struggles they go through compared to the glitz and glamour of the entertainment business,
right? And
how that evolves. So I'm really excited about this, man. Really, really excited.
Which is, interesting dynamic, because obviously we put on a show here, and we, obviously have a podcast, and you get to see a production that we put on, but obviously behind every production is a serious business and, serious things that have to go on, and radio, TV, movie making, any of it. There's business that goes on in the back. So even though you may think that it's all just the camera and lights, there's a lot of business that goes into it.
And a lot of hard work, and a lot of people that put in a lot of hard work, man. So.
Yeah, endless work.
Yeah.
Endless work. All right. Well, great. Well, glad to have both of you here today, and we're going to have a hell of a show because we're going to talk tea.
We are going to talk tea.
We're going to talk tea.
We're going to spill the tea?
All right, so.
A little bit, I hope.
Spill the tea, right?
Not too much spillage, though.
Don't spill the tea, man. It's a little pricey these days. So let's start with this. Manish, tell us something about tea that most people don't know about tea. Is there some interesting fact about tea that people just don't know?
Yeah, I think, when you think about tea, right, so many people think of it like something in their grandmother's cabinet, right, or something out there. And I think the way we think about tea is so different. Like, there's coffee, right? And so that's one thing. And then tea is everything else. So almost anything else that you can put in hot water, steep it for a little bit, and pull out, is tea, right? So it can be chamomile, it can be hibiscus. So I think the number one, the two things about tea that people just don't sort of embrace is that it's the entirety of the plant kingdom. So there's a tea for everyone, and it's easy. It's really not that hard. Put it in some hot water, sing the Star Spangled Banner in your own head, like be cool with your country, take it out, and there you have it. Like, it's really not that hard. And what you can get from it is so dramatic because all the health benefits and all the antioxidants and all the good stuff and some caffeine and whatever.
That's true.
So there's something for everybody.
Yeah, that's what I personally find very interesting about tea is all the different types of tea, the different flavors, from black tea to green tea to, like you say, chamomile. I mean, there's a plethora of different just natural flavors. And again, the medicinal aspect of it that coffee doesn't have. We know about the caffeine with coffee. We know it's been shown to reduce blood pressure and so forth. But at the same time, that doesn't have the same medicinal type of effect that tea does. So
no.
Tea's much more dynamic, I guess, is really the idea.
Absolutely.
Of it, over coffee. Yeah, that's awesome. It's very interesting industry. I come across a lot of different industries in my corporate management company, but don't deal with a lot of tea. So.
No, and I think tea is up and coming. So as a country, 50 years ago, we were primarily coffee drinking nation.
Right.
So it was like 1 in 10 person would be like, oh, I'm a tea drinker, or I even care, right? We used to drink a lot of coffee as your morning drink. And each succeeding decade, each generation has moved the needle away from coffee and towards tea. So at this moment, millennials, especially the generation coming up, it's 50-50, and in some cases, it's more balanced in that even the young people, in some cases, they like tea better, right? So young people are so different than us growing up. I think they're drinking less alcohol. They're doing.
I've never been able to drink coffee. Honestly,
really?
I can't. I've never acquired the taste for it. It's bitter. I can't. No matter what I put into it, I can't get past that aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm absolutely a tea drinker, not coffee.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I should have brought some tea. Nobody said. Somebody should have preambled this. Like, we should be drinking tea.
Have a whole
we should have had a tea
right
thing happening here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm the total opposite. I grew up with the American culture of coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee.
And the way you say it, right? Coffee.
Yeah,
you have it down pat.
I used to wake up, I was raised in New York, go get a coffee regular, go to work, drink another coffee. Hey,
Sure.
you tired? Drink another coffee. But recently, like a year ago, I tried to change my eating habits and all that. And one of the things that was recommended to me was no sodas, no coffee. We got tea.
Yeah.
So you said like 50 years ago, coffee was the American standard. I think it was more than that. I mean, it's a patriotic ideal that coffee is above tea here. What's driving that change for the millennials and the Gen Zs?
Well, so you got a couple of different things. First of all, we talk about patriotic, right? So you have to understand the history of tea. The United States was a tea-drinking nation, and then something happened in Boston. Maybe you heard about it, the Boston Tea Party,
exactly, right?
No taxation without no taxation without representation.
I think we need another Boston Tea
Party.
Shall we throw out the coffee instead?
Yeah, but we became a coffee drinking nation because of that, because it was associated with British tyranny, right? Mm-hmm. And so it never made a recovery. What pivoted? Well, first of all, we learned that tea is really good iced, right? Yeah. So iced tea kind of started taking off. Right. It was around the turn of the century, 1900, 1906, and then I don't. When I say this, I'm not trying to be weird about it, but like the hippies came. And they started picking herbs, right, and starting to wildcraft, and they brought the world of herbal tea. We talked about the rest of the plant kingdom. Right. They're like, look, this is really good. They brought the knowledge of what our ancestors have known forever and brought it to the surface in the 60s, right? Yeah. And so that was a big push. Snapple, starting to put tea in bottles. Yeah. That's a big push, that's a right? Big one, yeah. So all of a sudden, you're like, oh, it's right there next to the soda thing, right? And so it just keeps growing and growing. And then people start to try it. They start to feel better, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you talk about soda.
Yeah.
And I'm not even, but like we make tea sodas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What does that consist of?
Like we could, so at the store, Transit, if you want, you can go and you can say, I want black tea or I want green tea or I want that. And we'll make it with sparkling water.
Oh wow!
So and if you just get it plain, there's no sugar. There's a little bit of caffeine depending on what you choose.
Yeah.
We can make it with flavors. We can make them with sugars. We can make them like 50% as sweet as an actual sugar.
I've never seen a tea soda.
Mucho, I'm going to have to take you to
I am
Transit
not either.
Boss.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah, that's a new one. Yeah,
on me.
definitely.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get over there and try it. All right, so that was a lot about tea that I didn't know. So I'm kind of blown away, but that's amazing. Though. That's pretty awesome. Which again, I think, like you said, you're seeing the tea market grow. It's almost kind of, I don't know if maybe the craft beer market is following that market or one's ahead of the other, but it's similar to me that you've had these standard things, but now it's starting to really branch out.
So craft beer is ahead of us a little bit. I
Okay.
would say it is. But what's happening is that everything is starting to come together. So think about it, because one of the, like if you look at, if you talk to breweries and you talk to craft beers and distillers, non-alcoholic is becoming a trend, right? Cannabis or CBD beverages are starting to enter the marketplace, functionals. And so the lines are getting blurred, right? Is beer just a tea that's kind of been fermented and kind of sat and done some other stuff to bring out the yeast and the alcohols?
Right.
Where do we stand on that? Where are we? What can we do? Can we put things into tea that make them a little different?
Well, I can tell you, two of my favorite teas are Long Island iced tea and Arnold Palmer. So
There you go.
I'm all for that. I'm all for finding some alcohol in the tea.
And me too. I can't have coffee, and so for me, I'm not going to have a tea now, so I'm going to go home and have a whiskey just like the rest of us. But the truth is that the lines are getting blurred. And so this interest in botanical things is starting to say, okay, well, are we starting to move into breweries? Are they by night and are we by day? Right? Like, how do we get you refreshed? How do we make you feel good?
Yeah.
And so, it's an interesting place. So I think you are not wrong. We are just at the beginning stages of it.
So some of the marketing stuff that they do, you could be able to cross over to like the tea. Okay.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what you do. How did you get involved with, like, what brought you to the tea business?
So when I graduated college, I had a degree in psychology. Didn't know what I wanted to do. My family was always in business, and so I was like, I gotta get into business for myself. I gotta figure out what I wanted to do. So I didn't have any money, and nobody would give me any money. Who's going to do anything at 23, right?
Yeah.
So you got to get into a service business. You got to work. It's the hours you put in that you get back. And so I started doing marketing and advertising with a couple of partners, and that eventually I did not find the joy in that, and my partners also had moved on. And so I was like, I need to find something that I can market for myself. And one of the gigs that I had as a marketing person was to do the marketing for a local farmer's market. And so I would see these people who had these little food businesses. I'm like, I wonder what I can make that would be like cool that I could market and sell. And the only thing I knew how to make, this is honest to God's truth, was like my parents owned a motel and they would be like, make me tea, make me chai. So I would make chai for my folks, like when I was 10, 11 years old to power them up, right? Like you're talking about just get some coffee, right? Yeah, so they would be like, make me chai. And so, so that I would go do that thing. And so I knew how to do that, and so then I started putting it in tea bags and went to the farmer's market, and people kind of loved it. And then one thing led to another, and then people were like, "Oh, can you bring in more teas?" I was like, "Well, I know how," so I brought in more, and just one step at a time. So from a little 4-foot table at the farmer's market, getting out, then we started getting into wholesale and food service, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I can do that," and just one step at a time. It's first little steps, and then bigger steps.
How long ago was that?
25 years. 1997. 1997 was my first year.
And at what point did you realize, like, hey, I can make this a real business?
You know what's funny about that? Like the first 20 years, I was like, so we were talking, when you know,
right?
There's a moment. Up until 20 years ago, I was like, am I going to make it? Right? Like, is this going to be a real thing? Because you're still struggling. The day-to-day is so heavy, or there's so much, right?
Yeah.
It's like every day is a fire.
Yeah.
And then about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, wait a minute. And you could just see the change, right? We just finally hit those numbers. We finally hit that mark. And that's when I knew. People say, well, did you have a mission in life? And I go, no. I was like, I was just making it as I went along. And then finally, about 3 or 4 years ago, it just kind of gelled for me. So, yeah.
Started coming together.
It took about 20 years.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it can take that. It took me a good 10 years, I think, maybe longer. Maybe even 12 years. I was doing it at a pretty high level, but I really didn't understand a lot of the big, it's kind of hard to describe exactly, but kind of the inertia things, the things that can really change your inertia. Like you say, as a business owner, especially when you're working in your business, right, and you're in production or you're responsible for the marketing department or sales or whatever
or the bathrooms.
Right, cleaning the bathrooms too.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to kind of like really kind of feel the inertia of different things that can go on. But I think that once you mature as a business owner and you can start to feel like I can feel the energy that's in this direction or the energy that's in that direction, and you start riding those energy waves, if you will, I think that's when you can start like really putting stuff together to where I think it more along the lines, it starts to affect your own personal belief system to where you start believing that you can really achieve some pretty great stuff.
Yeah.
And then once you have that in your mind that I can really make this something special, I think that's when you can really start putting it down.
I say 20 years, but the first 5, I was just goofing around. Like, I did not take this seriously. I had a side job, and I was, like, making good money on sales. So I was like, this is a cool thing. Let's just do this, right? And it's kind of a side hustle. And then I lost that job after 9/11, and I was like, oh, boy, not a side hustle no more. So the serious part was 15 years, and that's when it came together, right? But you know what? When you were speaking, I remember the moment. It's when the bank came to me. When the bank calls on you, like, and they assign you a business rep,
right.
Like, you know what, you've been with us a long time, and we're noticing that your assets have hit a certain level. Can we sit down for a chat?
Right.
As opposed to when they saw you coming in the door and they're like, listen, don't come to us.
Right.
We don't even want to hear your story because your financials suck. Right.
Right.
And so I remember that day when they lent me the money for my first piece of equipment. Oh, something else.
You still get chills thinking about that.
Dude, yeah.
But those are the roadblocks that you broke down without even thinking about it. Like, you lost your job, all of a sudden, side hustle. Oh my God, I have to put myself into this to make money. And you get through it, and then you get validation from the bank saying,
yeah,
we believe in you. And then
and
it's like you said, the energy wave is all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, I agree. The energy, it had to shift. Now, obviously, he got thrown into the fire, and the reality is, a lot of entrepreneurs get thrown into the fire that way to where, their business is a side hustle, like you say, and they have a real job, and this is my side hustle, but then all of a sudden something happens to the real job. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, shit, I got to make my side hustle my real job now. And I know a lot of people that they've gotten into business the exact same way. That's what, it was out of necessity as much as anything else. Yeah. But until you approach it like that, because again, I know a lot of people that have side hustles, and some actually do really, really well with their side hustles. But until you have to do it full time, and that's your only thing, you're not really, really going to, start being your best at it for sure. All right. So then 5 years ago, you have this epiphany that, man, I can really make this something special.
Sure.
Now, when that occurred, and you said, okay, this is something that can really, really take off. What would you say was your biggest challenge at that point? To say like, okay, yes, I believe it can happen, but I need to accomplish this, or I need to put this piece together. What was that for you?
So there's this moment that you have to transition from being a small company to a mid-sized company, right? And so in that transition, there's a whole host of challenges. For me, I got to grow up as a boss, right? You got to become different as how you approach your business. It's no longer you're no longer bootstrapping. You have to start thinking about investment, capitalization, and some of that. So that was a big piece of it. The second piece is understanding that you have to. I was always blessed with good people, but to really rely on them, right? And trust that, like the freedom thing, like you got to start giving a little bit up of that. That was a hard shift. The capitalization, I will be transparent. We were doing well, but in order to envision the size of our company, the way that it has come to fruition today.
How many employees do you have now?
We're at 25 employees.
Okay.
Yeah. But to sort of envision where we were going to be, needed some capitalization, and without sounding dark, my father passed, and he left me a solid nugget to help do that. What's the irony of that situation is when I lost my job, my dad was always very successful, very successful. When I lost that job, he paid off my house. And he says, go get it. He didn't give me no handout. Your house is safe. You will always have a place to live. Go eat what you can kill now.
Gave a little bit of security.
Just gave me a little bit of security so I wasn't under super pressure. But then after that, it was me. It was me, right? And so it was funny that he didn't give it to me too early to help me. And then when the moment was right, it arrived. And
he probably saw something in you that told him
it
was right.
Yeah. So it really worked out for us, is that we got the help that we needed at the exact right moment. Right. And I would say that the pandemic, I mean, I know a lot of people suffered through the pandemic, but I think good businesses build during bad times and prepare, like sock away your money, right? Like put it away during the good times. And it was very, it was nervous. It was difficult. But we had expansion plans laid out before the shoe fell. And that was a good thing. Like I signed a lease that if I signed today would be 35 or 40% more than it was then. Sure. So there was some advantage to that. So some luck too. Yeah. Right. So, but you got to change, and it's hard. Like that internal change. You're talking about that shift in attitude. Yeah. Right. It's hard. But a few blessings too. We did slow down during the pandemic. We did receive PPP help, and I had employees that needed things to do.
Right.
We had the money to pay them. We needed things to do, so we just got together and said, let's build this thing together, right? So let's put the pieces together and
repurpose some people where
exactly.
You needed to.
Yeah, no, and again, and maybe I don't know if you found this, but like if you're a bootstrapper, you tend to hire a bunch of like Swiss Army knives. Like, oh, how many different things? How many hats can you wear, man?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You make coffee, great. You can do bathrooms, great. You're on-air talent, great. Yeah. And you start to hire those people. And so what happens is that they were like, yeah, I could do that, or I could do this, and it was really stressful, but it was fun too. So yeah, that's kind of how we've landed ourselves.
And there's a big lesson there. And this would be a great teaching moment for the audience. Understand what he just said and revisit it, especially with what we've been through, and obviously there's still a big dynamic going on with the pandemic and what it's caused, different things in different areas. But if you look at it from a business standpoint, I get to see a plethora of businesses and different industries all across the country, and every scenario you can imagine. And I've seen exactly your story where you've taken advantage of a particular situation like that and said, well, life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? Or life gives you tea leaves, make tea. But he's correct. Smart companies will grow in the downturns, and then they'll ride the wave in the upturn instead of the other way around. Instead of retracting when things get tough and then expanding in the good times, or over-expanding is typically what happens, to where then now you're susceptible. So just like he said, you want to expand when it's slower because you have the time and you have the extra energy to be able to do it. You can fix your processes. You can make more efficient, create more efficiencies, right? You can maybe roll out a new product or a new idea that you've been waiting to try, but things have been too busy to do it. And then now when you start to gear back up again as the economy, in the case of a pandemic, the economy reopens or the industry, the city reopens, you're able then to take some of those new things that you were working on and then bring them to market.
Exactly.
And now when it gets good again and the industry, the economy gets good or a particular situation is able to pick up, well, now you're able to run faster. And that's the time, just like you said, when you really, yes, you want to continue to put money to growth. Of course you do. You always want to keep a solid percentage of your money to growth. But you also want to have a lot of cash on hand. And having cash on hand is extremely important. If you look at any of the big companies out there, they always have a tremendous amount of cash on hand. Being able to make maneuvers and being able to weather storms and even during the storm be able to make serious changes, capital changes, changes to processes, changes to equipment, changes to, refurbishing, revamping. I mean, a lot of it, if you have the cash on hand and now you have the time because business is a little slower, you can really reemerge, reborn, rebirth, if you will, into a new economy, a new uptick. and then be that much better off. I mean, when you look at major transformations of companies, when you look at major growth spurts of companies, that's typically, I would say 90% of the time how it happens.
And I think we're anticipating that, and it isn't here yet. But like when you feel like, okay, it's almost here, right? It's like if I don't know, I'm not a surfer, but I'm assuming that as a surfer, you could probably like feel the waves starting to come in. And you're like,
you can feel the ocean start to get actually sucked out.
Yeah, right? And you're like, oh, I better wax that board. I better get my groove on. And that's kind of where we're at. We did all of the things that you talked about,
right.
The processes, the upgrades in equipment, the all of it, any innovation, new product development, branding, clean it all up, language, website. Like it's like when we think about what we've done over the last 2 years, no wonder I'm tired. I mean,
right.
I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted, but it's time.
That means you're doing it right.
We're doing it right, but it's time. It's time.
Exactly.
It's time to get this thing. It's time to get this ship rolling. And,
well, you're 52.
Yeah.
Which you're just now entering your prime for business. A lot of people get confused on that. And again, I'm not saying don't be successful when you're young. You certainly can and you should. But no matter what, no matter how successful you were in your 20s or 30s or even 40s, you're not going to hit your prime. You're not going to be your best until you get 50 to 65. Like that 15-year period is when you can like make fortunes and fortunes. Like that's when you run. Up until that point, you're learning, getting better, new skills, new knowledge, becoming a better boss. Obviously, that has been a huge one for me as part of my growth. I was always good at what I did from early on. My mid-20s, I got really good at what I did, and I started making a lot of money in my late 20s, and so that end of it I had down. Into my 30s, I foolish, spending too much money, didn't know how to manage money, didn't know how to take care of money, and so I, was making a lot of it, but spending it all, and ran into my own situation at 40 that I had to then make a comeback from and rebuild myself. But now that I just turned 50 this year, I'm like, holy shit. I mean, if I could take my 50-year-old mind and go back to my 30-year-old body. I want to go lower than 30. Like 30 is like the lowest I'd want to go.
Yeah.
If I take my 50-year-old mind and my 30-year-old body, it would do some serious damage.
Sure.
So yeah, that growth though, as an entrepreneur, and that growth in those aspects, again, because a lot of people can get really, really good at what they do, but does that make you a good boss? Does that make you a good manager? Does that make you good at strategic planning? No, not necessarily. You've got to grow into those things. And so a lot of people are talented young. A lot of people do well young, but you're not going to really be able to put it all together until, you're 20 years, 25 years in, and then it starts to all come together. It's almost like a professional athlete. You look at Michael Jordan or something like that. You don't come out great. You come out good, right? So a kid comes out of college, he's like, I tore up all the records in college, but he starts to get his ass handed to him in the NBA because he's not ready for that level.
Yep.
And it takes about 10 years?
Well,
8 years?
You can look at a Tom Brady. What is he, 44?
Yeah.
45, yeah.
The
Amazing.
guy can
probably better now than he was 10 years ago.
10
Yeah.
Super Bowls. Yeah,
Right,
exactly,
right.
man.
Yeah, he's been, and so his mind is finally, luckily his body's held together pretty well, but his mind is what's compensating for what his body has lost. But you can see the effect in this. It's almost better.
Yeah.
If you look at quarterbacks in the NFL, obviously same thing. Yeah. They're not their best until their upper 30s. Yep. Usually 38, 39, been doing it for 20 years straight. 18 from high school all the way through college. Now they're 38 in the NFL. Now they're really hitting on all cylinders. So be patient. I mean, that's kind of the message there. Be patient, but work hard. Don't stop. I don't say wait till you're 40 or 50 to start turning it on, because you're going to need that 20 years. So you got to turn it on early.
Absolutely.
But expect to be your best kind of at that time.
I think there's something to be said too for like the joy in the journey. Like, they always have that.
I was about to say that.
They always have that like in the background, and it sounds corny, but you have to kind of find a little time to sort of enjoy what you're doing, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, even though if there's a lot of work, there's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of lost time, there's all these things that happen, right? All these struggles, but somewhere in there, I was blessed that there was something always fun going on, right? There was always something that was like, oh, that's a spark, right? That kept it lit, kept the fire lit.
Right.
And I think that people go, oh, this is going to take me 20 years. I'm like, look, you have a choice. It'll take you 20 years, and it's going to be sacrifice, right? But then you will hit that thing, you will hit that mark, and then it comes in.
Right.
But while you're, it's like the hockey stick effect is what we call it.
Right.
So, but when you're doing that thing, you got to find a little love for yourself and the things that you're doing, and really go inward. And in doing so, I think you change as a person, and for the better.
Right.
For the better. Yeah. The challenges of business really forge you as a human being.
I mean, it's all you should really focus on when you're young and in business is getting better. You know, as long as you're getting better, you know, it's a long game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. As long as you're getting better all the time, as long as your skill set's improving, as long as you're making improvements in the things you're doing, let that be satisfying enough, right? You're not rich yet, and you're not planning your $120,000 vacation, but you're building yourself, and like Manish said, you want to take pride in the fact that you know you're getting better. As long as you're doing that, again, there'll be a time when it builds, and then all of a sudden, like, it's been sparking, and now all of a sudden, now the fire starts, and now the wind blows, and now here comes the fuel, and bam, now we go to an unstoppable position. And you're right, you're almost there. You know, you're to the point now where you've got your company ready to, like, really, really start taking off with massive growth. And we kind of talked about in the pre-show where, you know, we talk about capitalization and the availability of capital, especially for growth. Sometimes you can't always just have a strong cash position. You'll have to leverage when you need to, and as long as it's smart, and as long as it's for growth, and as long as it's in you know, the right terms, it's a smart move, right? Most huge companies leverage like crazy. So leveraging isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as it's for the right reason and as long as it's a good structure. But having that capital available to be able to then reinvest in the business to then get the growth. So when your skill set comes together with the capital necessary, those two things start really, really hitting, and now the growth just becomes, dramatic, because you can then take that renewed profit and then reinvest that back in, and now you have an engine that just is going to run and all the way to wherever you want it to be. Again, I don't care what type of business it is. Again, this, his tea business, or if it was a janitorial service. Yeah. You could have the largest janitorial service in the United States of America, and it'd be a $100 million company. Again, you can get to $100 million by cleaning toilets.
You can, absolutely.
So there's a lot of ways to do it. There's no need to think that you got to reinvent an iPhone or reinvent, social network to make it. You can make it doing literally anything when you got these things coming together. So you're right there. You have 25 employees. You obviously got the business experience. You got your chops. You've got your battle wounds, your battle scars. You've paid your dues. I know you're looking at really growing the next few years. You feel the economy's kind of where it needs to be for a growth spurt. Pent-up buyers out there, pent-up market out there. You've got the capital. You've got the infrastructure. You've got everything going for you. So right now, as you're ready to start really growing your company, what are you saying? Like, if this comes together, if that happens for me, we can really, really take off.
So I think that there's another piece, like you talked about the capitalization and you talked about the chops and some, but being at this for a certain amount of time, you also build your network. And what I mean is that critical mass, that brand awareness, right?
Right.
People know who you are.
Yeah.
They trust you, your reputation, right?
Correct.
Your network of people that you interact with, and so you hit that critical mass. So what my expectation is that that's all going to come together, and that people are going to be like, oh yeah, it's Maya. You got to work with Maya. Right? Like, have you seen their stuff?
Right.
You see, what I mean? They're not just some flash in the pan. They've been here for 20 years, right? But you just talk to Manish, right? Or whatever. Right. Just talk to their people. You'll see what it is. And that's the reputation that's starting to happen. You can hear it in the phone calls. You can see it in the emails that we're getting unsolicited, right?
Right.
So you're hearing it and you're like, how many fish are jumping in the boat during a pandemic that we didn't even put a line in the water.
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't put a line in the water. And so you're like, okay, something will happen.
Right.
And so just better be prepared.
Right.
And behind that is also some innovation. I also think that your best prospects are your existing customer base. And so we
Always.
So we've rolled out. So we need to. I think personally, we need to improve our one-to-one with our customer base. It was really hard during the pandemic. It was a really difficult time. But to go, okay, you're opening up again. I have some stuff for you.
Yeah.
I have got some stuff for you. Let's do business. Let me show you how I can make you more money. Right? Let's help you get back on your feet. And so part of our strategy, our initial strategy, is I think we're going to double in size, just being able to sell to our existing customer base.
Right.
And then there's the expanding customer base. So you have your existing customer base, along with new people coming in,
Right.
and that critical mass, and then it just becomes this flywheel, right? And you're just like, okay, I gotta keep up with this now.
Well, what he's saying is true. Another learning moment here. Once you're positioned in your market, and your market can be anything. Obviously, you're dealing with a national market, and obviously you've got real strong local presence and presence in Arizona. But even now, you're developing your brand nationwide. Once you have a brand recognition in your space, in your market, yes, you get this weird thing that kind of happens where people start coming to you that otherwise wouldn't be because of your reputation, because of your position in the marketplace. And the more successful you get, the more people want to do business with you. Mm-hmm. The more people want to do more for you, right? So, and again, this is one of the types of things in business that business owners really should pay attention to. The more that you can do for others is the more others are going to want to do for you. If you can't do anything for anybody, well, then they're not going to want to do anything for you either.
Well, it's that old saying.
That's really, you have to be aware of that.
It's the old saying that word of mouth is the best marketing tool.
Well, your reputation is the best marketing tool.
I mean, but you have one person spreading it to the family member, to the friends, and I mean, that's so valuable.
Yeah, you're hitting hitting the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
It's that third party verification, right?
Yeah.
I know Manish. I mean, he's a fantastic. I mean, what a business guy. You should do business with him. And then that gets in your marketplace. Now, obviously, you're thinking of just like friends and family, but it works the same way in the business community.
It spreads around.
Yeah, the business community, your reputation will precede you. People will know who you are before you even talk to them. And if that reputation was out there in that positive way, well, they've already got positive thoughts in their mind. And so now they're already saying to themselves, I want to do business with this person. If they got something to offer me, I want to offer them something. And obviously, every business transaction and business relationship should always be mutually beneficial.
And long term.
And always
playing the long ball, man.
Yeah.
And, that's the fastest way to destroy your reputation, in my opinion, is to play short term.
Sure.
Play long ball. Yeah. Play like this person is going to be in your life for 25 years, and then see your approach. If you approach it that way, people are like, well, you're not trying to get it right now. He's just trying to make it right. They're trying to get me what I need.
Right.
And you can feel that when you're just trying to help you what you have to give, right? He's going to give. So just chill. And then over time, people are like, no, he's good. They're good. Yeah. And your people feel that too. Yeah, and the people that represent you and your brand and your staff and I don't like to call them staff because I just find that I will do it from time to time, but I just don't like it. But like they are also your brand ambassadors. Like who picks up the phone, right? Who writes that email? What kind of? Why are you saying it like that? Don't say it like that.
They have to believe in you,
right?
Your team has to share your vision. If they don't share your vision and they don't feel that vision, well then they're not going to handle things properly.
And when there's a fire. Like on the other end, like something went wrong, I'll be like, just hang on. Let me make a phone call. And you call that person, you're like, sorry.
Yeah.
I own this. We own it. We'll fix it. We'll take care of it. When can we have a beer?
And that's another, that segues us into another point that I wanted to make. And we talked about in the pre-show. And for all business owners and aspiring business owners, this is really something that you should hear and take to heart. Take ownership of all problems, whether they were created by you or not, whether it's your fault or not, whether it's something you did or didn't do. If it's a problem that's going to affect you or affect some aspect of your business, take ownership of it. Own the problem, create a solution. If there isn't a solution, make one up. But you got to get a solution. You got to get it in place quickly. If you get in the habit of ownership of the problems as they come up and take direct and immediate action to solve the problem, it gets that much easier. And I know that was something that you had mentioned in the pre-show that we talked about that was a big part of your evolution as a business owner.
Sure. And I think people are like, oh, problems.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get paid you didn't get paid to just sit at home. You get paid to solve problems. That is what you do. You get paid to create value, right?
Right.
So that is a problem. It's a challenge. And so every problem is actually an opportunity, right? So if there's a problem, you're like, okay, I got to figure out the silver lining here and the opportunity, and I've got to extract that value out of that problem. And you can only do it by taking ownership.
Right.
You just get in there, own it, and go, you know what? I got to get after this. And then it's painful sometimes. Some of these problems are awful. Like they're just huge, and like they take up nights and, and lots of whiskey to solve. But then once you get past it, you're like, that was pretty cool. I don't know if I want to do this again next week, but
you got to put
maybe,
yourself...
maybe in a month or two.
You have to put yourself in both sides,
Exactly.
I mean, if you really think about it as a consumer and you get bad service or something isn't right, you don't want to hear excuses. You want to hear them say, man, I screwed up. How can we make this? I legit want you to be happy. And you feel good. Mm-hmm. So as a business owner or working for somebody or a corporation, if you own the problem, it's actually making the consumer trust you and love you more.
Absolutely. Awesome
So
point.
I always appreciate as a consumer a business or customer service that can own.
I will tell you one other thing that is really funny about what you said, and I totally agree with you, 100%. You got to own the problem.
Yeah.
But there is a time and a space once in a while where, you know what? It's not you, man. It's not you. It's them. It's the customer.
Right.
And you got to be prepared to fire the customer because you know what? They're driving your employees crazy.
Sure.
I always say that if you have a problem and it lands on my desk and my team is exasperated, they cannot make this work. They can't get it across the thing because of something that you did.
Right.
There's a pretty good chance we're not going to be doing business tomorrow.
Right.
Because my people go the extra mile because they do what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And then some customers just, sorry, we're just not good.
You obviously you have to make sure that you want to do right by your customer. You want to be fair to your customer. And again, if you're even the 2% of the cause of the problem, own the whole problem. But if you're 0%, honestly though, but you got to be honest with yourself.
Oh yeah, of course.
If you're 0% and it's just a bad customer or it's just somebody a crook. I mean, there are crooks in business. That's just how it is. There's some crooks out there, and when you come across them, you got to get them away from you as fast as possible. Now you want to do it obviously with some tact. You don't want to be screaming and yelling at people. You want to get them away for other reasons. Yeah. But create that distance, kind of like that uncle that he's my uncle. I can't really don't want him over for.
We all have them.
I don't want him over Thanksgiving dinner anymore. So how do we create this space, right? So that's the way you want to do it. Right? I don't want my mom pissed off at me because I don't like her brother, but we got to create this space. He's toxic, right? So same thing with bad customers. You have to kind of just get them away from you, but do it as tactfully as you can because you don't want enemies out there. Yeah. That's the last thing you ever want in business is enemies. You don't want people out there trying to get you. That's not a good place to be. So create the distance, create the space, but do so with tact and grace, but just get them away from you, And one of the things I teach businesses to do, especially if they have service-based businesses where they have, clients that come back, you want to make sure that you're naturally creating attrition so that you can shed off the customers. And some of them, when I say bad customers, sometimes they're not just problematic customers. Sometimes they're just low-paying customers.
That's what it is.
Maybe the work is just too much to fulfill their order, and they don't buy enough to make it worth it. Shed those people off because they are drawing from your resources, and it's just as easy to fill an order for a big customer as it is for a little customer. So shed those people off just by maybe saying, hey, call me, I won't call you, right? And then you just kind of shed them off and they'll go away. But that's very smart because as an entrepreneur, you only have so much time in the day, so much energy in the tank. You have to be mindful of it. You cannot just spend it willy-nilly. So you own the problem, but be mindful of your energy, be mindful of your time so that you make sure that as you deal with the problem, you're doing so efficiently and not letting small problems become big problems. And again, not hesitating and not trying to ignore the problem. I know a lot of business owners will have problems, especially financial problems, and they try to ignore it like it's not happening, right? Oh no, I don't see it. And if I can't see it, it doesn't exist.
A lot of that going on right now.
Yeah, you do that in business, it's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad. Because everything in business is magnified. We know from our personal lives, financial decisions we make have a certain effect, but in business, it's multiplied. I'd say probably tenfold multiplied, to where whatever decisions you make financially in your business is going to have a 10 times effect as a personal decision, just because of everything is higher. All the overhead's higher, the costs are higher, the exposure's higher. When things go wrong, it goes way more wrong. So you have those type of things. So own the problem, own it fast, own it early, solve it, and if it's not your problem, exit the customer as gracefully as you can. I think if you do that, again, it helps to prevent a lot of larger problems. All right, so what time are we at? I think we're kind of coming up here on it, aren't we? 45 minutes in. Okay, we got a few more minutes then. I wanted to talk to you because we're talking about growth of your business. And again, this is why a lot of people are tuning in, because they want to say, okay, if I get to the point where he's at, what's the moves? How do I get to the next level? We talked about you and your valuation, where you want to get to. You want to get to where your 5 years, your business is doing 17, 20 million a year in gross revenue. You want to give yourself a 6 times valuation. I like 5 times, but he's telling me in this business, he's looking at 6, which could put you in a position where your company, if you exit 5 years from now or so, would put you at about $25, $30 million, which is a very nice exit, by the way. How are you going to go about now, because obviously for your market, you're now a national company, not a local or even a regional company. What's the strategy marketing-wise to get the extra customers, to get the extra volume that you need to basically 5X yourself, 10X yourself where you're at right now? I'd say at least 5X yourself. What's the strategy marketing-wise to do that?
So we talked a little bit about connecting with your own customer base. So that's step one, and expanding the SKUs and expanding the amount that you are already producing. So instead of having your catalog or your meaningful horses that you're selling, having more of them, right? So you're doing more. So that's the first thing. Right. The second thing for us is we usually use a kind of a 3 or 4 pronged strategy for growth. One is finding new customers who may not have any knowledge of us. That's email marketing to lists, that's some social media things, direct outreach, almost cold calling a little bit, like, hey, so there's some of that. Right. Then there are trade shows and direct events where industry gatherings, right? There's some newer places that you have to be careful about how you do this, but like Facebook groups and social media groups that come together where you can sort of talk about what it is that you're doing. And the big thing for me, which is the 5X, is to take the fact that tea is becoming what I think it is and take it to new markets. So at the moment, we're really focused on coffee shops. That seems to be our primary, that's a primary drum that we play. I got to get more drums. So what I mean is, now we spoke a little bit about the brewery space. How can I apply our knowledge of botanicals and tea and take it into microbreweries? How can I apply this and take it to restaurants? How can I move into larger markets and other markets? And I think that is really what's going to push us into that next level. You talked about soda, right? Yeah. And trying to say, okay, well, it's not just tea, but how about tea soda? Can we make something that's a hybrid that people are like, okay, I can have a soda in my coffee shop. Yeah. All I need is sparkling water. It has half the sugar of soda. It tastes like a soda. Yeah. It's got all the benefits of tea. I feel good. Everybody's good. There's margin. Okay, now we're talking, right? And so it's leaning into the innovation, but innovation as a marketing piece, right? Like, I got some new stuff, right? Yeah. Always got something to talk about. Yeah. So yeah. Sure. Yeah. I also think that any company that has the ability to do anything for a consumer right now, you got to figure out how to master the online space. That online space.
Well, Does your product have a specific demographic that you want to zero into? And
So-
does that affect the way you want to market?
That's a great question. Like from our wholesale business,
Yeah.
we're mostly B2B, right? So
Right.
coffee shops are kind of what we're angling at. So that's a marketplace in not from a consumer standpoint, but from a business standpoint, the profile that we like.
Sure.
Online, man, it's nuts. There's a tea for everybody. So you have to kind of be not careful, but it's hard to pick one, right?
Yeah.
Tea generally is consumed by more women than men, but not like dramatic. It's like 60-40, right? And so you got to kind of look at it that way. There's a few other things that we do in that regard, but in the online space, that's so wide open, right? There's so many opportunities.
Yeah.
So understanding how to build a website, getting your Google AdWords in time, getting on Amazon, all of those things, that's going to be a big piece of it too.
Yeah.
That's
I
going to be a
agree.
big piece of it.
I agree. And when you get to the point where you're at with your sales volume, you've got to create fresh avenues of creating market space, right? So when your business is smaller, yeah, you can just go to this specific area or this demographic and just focus there. But once you start to get to a higher level, especially with a low ticket item, right? Again,
Yeah.
$3 cup of tea.
Sure, you bet.
Right? When you have a low ticket item and you know you're going to have to just move mass quantities, well, yeah, you have to carve out new avenues for your market and think outside the box and do a bunch of market research to where maybe, other tea wholesalers aren't hitting restaurants directly, right? With, hey, if you offered more tea selection in your restaurant could, be a bigger draw, have a better draw.
And there's such a thing like building a better mousetrap, right? Like I think there's growth in the sense that you remember what coffee tasted like a few years ago, and then what happened to the space, right? Like there's so much room. Like the iced tea that you get in restaurants, not very good.
Right.
Not very good.
Lipton.
Yeah,
that's
I'm not going to say that out loud.
Sorry, Lipton.
No. Yeah, I was like, oh, great.
no, it just
You're going to
gets
get that. You're
repetitive,
going to get
that's
that phone call
I'm going to get that letter.
from P&G, right? All of a sudden, you got that. But the truth is that there's room for that kind of stuff, right? So,
Right.
so you're like, okay, well, I can build a better mousetrap. Let me show you how this works. And I think that too is a big thing. I think we can do something that's already being done. Just show you how you can do it better. And now there you are.
Yeah.
So.
Again, there's not, and I don't care who you are, there is not a product or a service out there that exists that can't be made better. And that's really, as an entrepreneur, that's where your mind really needs to go.
Yeah.
You may be doing something, because again, this idea that when I talk to a lot of people about what they're going to do for a business or what they're going to do to make money, or they always are trying to invent something new. And I said, look, stop trying to invent something new. Take something old and make it better, right? If we look at something like Amazon, that's all Jeff Bezos did. He didn't invent anything. He just took a bunch of old stuff, books initially, right? It had been around for a few thousand years already, and just made the experience of purchasing the book better. So if you can make the experience of it better, that is in effect a way to improve the product or to improve the service. If I can just make the experience of you buying it better, that's enough to actually have a really solid marketability for something like that. And like you said, with tea and anything like that, I mean, the possibilities are just endless. Because again, like I said, I've never heard of soda tea before.
Yeah,
so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, my mind just turned on when you said that.
Oh, dude,
and not
that's so
generally
good.
for me, because I actually like regular tea or just basic or different types of teas. But I have a family member who's addicted to soda.
Okay.
We're trying to wean her off the soda. But when you said that's who I thought about right away. And
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna make like we're on the show, right?
Yeah.
You bring this person to us,
Okay.
and I will make it worth their while.
All right.
Give me 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks, and let's see if we can't make a dent.
Well,
Right?
I'm
Because
coming in for sure. I'm coming to Transit Tea. I'll be
Yeah,
there this weekend,
definitely,
guaranteed.
man.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
And that's, I think oftentimes we forget. Most people who are entrepreneurs go in it because they want to have some impact,
Right.
and create value, right? And that this is the value, man. Even to this day,
Yeah.
What this family member of yours, be like, you know what? Let me see if I can make a difference.
Yeah.
What can I give? What can I do to make a difference in your world?
Yeah.
And if I can move the needle a little bit and say, all right, let's take this soda thing down. Let's get you where you need to be, because you're gonna feel a lot better.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel a lot better. And if you feel a lot better, you're gonna be a lot nicer to everybody. And if you're not a lot nicer to everybody, we all win, right?
Yeah, right.
It's all good. It's win-win.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, ultimately, at the end of the day, you're making money or your money-making journey, you're never going to be really good at making money until you stop looking at it as making money and you start looking at it as helping people. The second you start making it about helping people, it just gets really easy to make money, because that's ultimately what you're getting paid to do.
Yes, sir.
You're getting paid to help people. So if you put the focus there and just focus on helping them as much as you possibly can, well, now you're going to make more money, because the more you help people and the bigger problem you help them with is the more money you make. And that's another psychological transformation, I think, that business owners have to eventually adopt if they're going to take it to the next level and really get to the type of valuations and exit strategy capabilities like we talked about, where you're going and where others can get to. And again, you can take a very simple business model, business concept, like selling tea, and you started, like you said, a farmer's market with a little table of different teas, and make it into a national brand and something big, and something that when you exit it, you will be very wealthy, and you'll leave a big legacy for everybody, including your employees and your family and everything else. So, and that's where the ride really, really, really is good. So I just want to make the announcement now. Manish will be coming back weekly to do the show.
With samples.
But I tell you what, though, I'll tell you what. If we do this thing with your family member and stuff, we should we'll come back and we'll talk about what.
She's a soda addict, man.
Dude, just bring her.
So
right.
Let me have my crack. I mean, I didn't say I was going to be successful, but I can't win if I don't try.
Exactly.
Right, gotta
Gotta try. And we'll see
Yep.
if we can get her.
Yeah.
strap it up or strap it on. What's the saying?
Yeah.
Strap it up. And then
There's a strap somewhere.
Just strap it. All right. So tell everybody where they can find you online, where they can find you, where your store is at,
You
where
bet.
your location's
So for Maya Tea, that's all loose leaf tea and some other goodies. That's mayatea.com. Straightforward. MAYATEA.com. And if you're in Tucson and you want to visit our tea shop, it's Transit Tea. That's 2645 East Speedway.
Okay.
It's just east of the FedEx building on Speedway. It's on the north side of the street
What's the crossroad?
between Tucson and Country Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's
Got
a
it.
FedEx
That's a great
there.
area.
It's
Yep.
a great area, yeah.
Yep.
And you can't come inside because we're a drive-through only.
Okay.
But the stuff is amazing.
Okay.
And we're doing things with tea. You can get tea sodas. You can get tea snow cones. You can
Oh,
get tea
wow.
popsicles.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. This is out of bounds. I have no idea where this thing is going.
Wow.
This thing is just. It may go nowhere, and that's okay. I just had to build one for fun. But yeah, it's like tea you've never seen.
Awesome.
I can't wait to try it. Can't wait to
good.
try it. And where would they find you? What's your Instagram? What's your Facebook?
For both the names of the business, my personal or the business.
The business.
The business. It's My Tea Co. And for business, it's Transit Tea.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've been a fantastic guest.
Thank you for having
Your
me.
story is inspiring, to say the least. Starting at a table at a farmer's market as a side hustle, to now you are on the precipice of becoming a national brand, and dare I say it, a household name. If that takes off to that point, it was because of this, obviously.
Exactly.
But
really pushed that
no,
soda for
I
you.
guarantee a lot of people are really going to be inspired by your story and where you've been and where you're at and where you're going. I'm certainly going to follow your journey from now on, and I encourage everybody else to. All the links to everything will be wherever you find this. Obviously, you find it on YouTube. You're going to see all the links to everything for him and everything for me there as well. Give him a follow, give him some likes, support him. I always talk about, the entrepreneurial community has to, again, there's no such thing as competition, not really. We stick together, like-minded people come together. We can do great things as a community versus going it alone. And as you know, anybody who watches the show, you're not alone. You're here. You're part of this community. So if you did find some value in the show today, please like, subscribe, share it wherever you can. the more people we can get Manish's story to, obviously you can see the inspiration that you'll be helping share. So really appreciate the support. So awesome to be season 3. Hopefully you guys like the new set and like the new style we're doing it. Hopefully it's going to have even a bigger impact. Can't wait to bring you the rest of the season. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks a bunch.